A lot of people missed it, but House of the Dragon Season 1 set us up for a massive spy battle in Season 2, one that isn't even really hinted at in Fire and Blood, but would add a fantastic extra layer to the story. Let's take a look. Hi everyone, this is Robert. Welcome to Deep Geek. On this channel we cover the best in fantasy and science fiction, House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones, The Lord of the Rings, The Witcher, and much more. If that sounds good, there's a subscribe button in the bottom right of your screen. There was a lot going on in the last couple of episodes of Season 1 of House of the Dragon, and our attention was rightly on Rhaenyra, Daemon, Alicent and Otto's reactions to Viserys' death. But interwoven among this narrative was the start of a spy war between Larys Strong and Mysaria. Let's break down what we know and then figure out what this might mean for Season 2. There are obviously spoilers here for Season 1 and potentially for Season 2, and book readers, I'm mostly focusing on the show here. There are differences in the books. Let's start with Mysaria, also known as Lady Misery or the White Worm. She is introduced in Episode 1 as Daemon's lover, and when he is banished from King's Landing, she goes with him to Dragonstone. He seems to rather take her for granted, though, telling his family that they are engaged and that she is pregnant. Neither are true. In fact, it seems a bit like a cry for attention by Daemon from Rhaenyra and Viserys, and Mysaria understandably seems to leave him as he takes his frustrations out in the war in the Stepstones. But by the time we reach Episode 4, a few years later, she has clearly worked her way into a better place. She no longer needs to rely on Daemon to protect her. She has established herself in King's Landing, taking care of herself. During their time apart, she has set herself up as a spy master or mistress of sorts. When Daemon takes Rhaenyra down into Flea Bottom and acts inappropriately with her, Mysaria's spies are watching and pick up Daemon and keep him safe for the night. But more importantly, they report what happened to Otto Hightower. It's clear that this is an independent arm's-length operation. Otto only knows the name The White Worm, pays for the information, but doesn't run the spy network himself. Indeed, by the time we get to Episode 9, this is still the case. Otto still doesn't know who his mystery informer is until he meets her. But now, Mysaria has had perhaps nearly 2 decades to build her network, and it shows. She keeps track of everything that is happening down in Flea Bottom, and even has a spy right at the heart of the Red Keep. The opening of Episode 9 shows Talisa, the maid, discovering that Viserys is dead. She immediately lights a candle in the window, alerting Mysaria of what has happened. This is great storytelling, showing us, rather than telling us, not just the extent of Mysaria's network now, but also that she has been expecting and planning for Viserys' death for a while. Her spy knows the signal to give, and Mysaria is looking out for it. And she does the very thing she has been waiting for, find and secure the new king, Aegon II. This is an easily overlooked point. Mysaria knew that one day soon Aegon would suddenly become king, and that he often ended up drunk and carousing in Flea Bottom of an evening. If she could keep an eye on him and capture him, suddenly she would have huge collateral. And that's what happened. She learned that Aegon was now king, before even he did, knew that people would be looking for him, and hid him in his comatose state somewhere only she knew. When her contacts found that Sirs Eric and Aric were looking for Aegon, she sent a servant to tell them to get Otto himself, the Hand of the King, to meet her. This was her moment. She had kept her identity secret thus far, but now she was exposing herself to strike a deal. She had something Otto needed, Aegon, and so she could ask him for whatever she wanted. And what she wants is for the Iron Throne to actually use its power to help the small folk of King's Landing, to outlaw the fighting pits where children are forced to fight each other. It's a laudable thing she is doing. Nearly 2 decades of building her empire have led to this moment, and she uses it to help others. In a world of grey characters, the White Worm is proving so far to be someone we can actually root for. She also gives Otto a warning, to remember that it was her who gave him Aegon, when she could easily have killed him, and also to remember that his power ultimately comes from the people. Woe betide anyone who sits on the Iron Throne and doesn't care about the people. Those who have read Fire and Blood, and there's a slight spoiler here, will know that this is a bit of a Cassandra moment for Mysaria. Daemon gave Rhaenyra similar advice earlier in the season. It's important. Look after the people. Anyway, having secured a bit of gold and some warmish words from Otto, Mysaria tells him where to find Aegon, and Eric and Arik head out to get him. The problem, of course, is that Aemond and Criston Cole see all this and intercept them. So Mysaria has struck a deal with the Hand of the King, but the Hand of the King is no longer really in power. Alicent is now in the driving seat for Team Green. At which point, let's cut over to Alicent's spy network. Of course, she doesn't really have one either. It's Larys Strong we're talking about here. He has been ingratiating himself with her all season and trying to prove his worth. At first, it seems to have just been him. He speaks little, hides in the shadows, and listens lots. He was introduced in episode 3 in a rather low-key way. There was that great hunt. Everyone was out there trying to capture and kill the White Stag and, well, I say everyone, most of the men were off hunting. The women were politicking and gossiping, and Larys, because of his disability, is there too. He sits and listens and gains knowledge. He first gains Alicent's trust by spilling the tea, figuratively, about Rhaenyra getting moon tea from the Grand Maester, so Alicent knows that Rhaenyra was sleeping with someone. Then, when her father is dismissed as Hand of the King, he says that he can get him back. Alicent clearly wants that, but is shocked by the way Larys chooses to do it, by killing his own father and brother by fire at Harrenhal. This is the birth of Larys's spy network, although spy is probably the wrong word here. Mysaria has spies reporting back to her. Larys has operatives doing his bidding. He released them from the black cells, cut out their tongues, and they now owe him their lives. It is his Firefly network. You saw that he seems to have claimed that as his new sigil, a bit like Littlefinger claimed the Mockingbird as his new sigil. When we reach episode 9, a few years later, remember, and Mysaria shows the extent of her network, Larys finally realises that if he is to gain real power, he has to get rid of his rival, and asks Alicent for her go-ahead to murder Mysaria. If you missed this whole subplot, it's completely understandable, because it was right in the middle of the whole aftermath of Viserys' death, and, well, we were all focusing on Larys and Alicent's feet at the time, but this is what he was saying while that whole rather seedy feet scene was playing out. There is a web of spies at work in the Red Keep. Along its threads travel news of all our doings. Your father knows this, but has left it in place. More than once it has proved advantageous to those willing to feed the weaver. One of the little spiders is your lady-in-waiting, and there are more like her. Even I do not know the number. There is one way to destroy his, Otto's, advantage. It must be taken out at the head. When the queen dies, the bees fly without purpose. If you wish it, it will be done. Larys is basically saying that Mysaria has a spy network that spies on everything they do in the Red Keep and passes that information on to Otto. But he promises to take out Mysaria if that is what Alicent wants. She gives her implicit agreement. And a couple of scenes later, with no word of explanation, we see a building in King's Landing ablaze, and a hooded figure walking away from it. The implication is clear. Larys has instructed his Firefly network to burn down Mysaria's home and kill her, much as they burned down Harrenhal and killed Larys's father and brother. But, again, spoilers, I don't think he has succeeded in killing Mysaria, which leaves open the wonderful prospect of a spy war in Season 2 of House of the Dragon. I think it's pretty clear that Otto won't have the time or focus to fulfill his promise to end the child exploitation in King's Landing, so Mysaria probably won't feel any loyalty to him, and now Alicent has implicitly declared war on her, so where does Mysaria turn? Presumably to Rhaenyra. Mysaria's relationship with Daemon, Rhaenyra's husband, is complex to say the least, but if both parts of Team Green have declared war on Mysaria in their various ways, then where else does she go? And how does Larys respond? He actually isn't an Alicent loyalist. The actor, Matthew Needham, has confirmed that the whole feet thing was basically about power, not sex. And when in episode 9, Otto confronts Larys with the fact that he has been spending a lot of time with Alicent, Larys turns around and says that there is no reason why that should not ultimately benefit Otto. In other words, his loyalties are flexible, something else to keep an eye on. So what do we have here for Season 2 of House of the Dragon? The spy war is just getting started, but unlike in Game of Thrones when it was just the members of the small council, Varys, Littlefinger, Cersei, who had their own spy networks and were jostling for position, this time we have an independent actor. Mysaria is the loose cannon. She will clearly oppose Larys for trying to kill her and Otto for not delivering on his promise, but how will it play out with Daemon? From the start, Mysaria stated that she was all about safety, or, as she put it, being liberated from fear. They haven't said much about her background in the show, but it was undoubtedly a hard one in Lys, and it's clear that she has not only focused on ensuring that she herself is protected, but that she looks out for those like her. Her priority when negotiating with Otto Hightower, and remember, this was the thing she had seemingly been planning for years for, was to protect the children of King's Landing, the most vulnerable. Although we will see a spy war blaze across King's Landing in House of the Dragon, at its heart, this is actually about what drives people. Is it about power, which is what seems to drive Larys and Otto and many others, or a sense of anger, entitlement and injustice, which seems to be where Rhaenyra may be coming from for some of next season? Or is it about prioritising those who cannot look after themselves, the most vulnerable in society? Mysaria may be a mysterious character, but she may prove to be the one we care about the most. Did you know that I have a new channel where I will be moving all of my live content? It's called IDG Live. Short-form content, more instant reviews and reactions, interviews, and much more. There's a link in the middle of your screen now. Or if you want more videos about House of the Dragon, please click on the playlist on the left of your screen. The link to my Patreon page, the best way to support this channel if you wish, is on the right of the screen. Thanks for watching. That's all for this time. I'll see you again soon.